Hello. So, I'm actually not exactly sure what is going to come out today. I've been feeling, I guess you can say, like a few different themes coming through. And I didn't know if I wanted to put them in separate transmissions or let them kind of just like weave or braid together. So I just decided to open the container, and before I did that, I always set intentions, and I did a little meditation, and then I was actually doing a little bit of like research, I guess you can call it, before I started, of a few different things. So yeah, with that, we'll just kind of see what comes through. So I was reminded over the last few days of some dreams that I have not spoken about yet on this channel. And I feel like that's part of what is wanting to be discussed. And then through that, we'll just kind of, like I said, see what weaves through. So some of the things that I do want to talk about, or that I've been talking about, I have had a lot of that. See, the tongue-tiedness. Maybe someone here is going through like a similar thing where there's things that you want to talk about from your own lens, your own perspective, your own experiences, but you've come across some like conflicting ideologies, or like essentially it's like, for me, I know that I've been drawn to listen to a lot of other people's findings, perspectives, different sharings on things like channeling and metaphysical research and esoterica, occult wisdom, etc. And then, of course, things that come through my own experiences. And so, yeah, and it doesn't always have to be around those topics. It could be around even food, like sunscreen or sun, and how to like honor your body and protect it from the sun, but also not like, if you don't want, again, this is only if it sits with you. This is just an example that actually I've been going through personally. I'm actually very sunburnt right now. like I went out in public yesterday and every single person was like, oh my God. And I was like, I know. And so, yeah, there's just with everything, what we put in our bodies, how we navigate through the world. So yeah, again, it doesn't just have to be about esoterica, but that's like one of the things coming through, and something that I have been really hesitant to speak about because of all of the different perspectives. And so when we kind of zoom out, we can take a look at that and see it from a bigger picture. And then it's like kind of like getting to know your own rhythms and cycles. Like sometimes I'm drawn to focus more on the bigger picture, and then sometimes I'll kind of like hone in on one specific facet of that, and it will kind of like, it's become a little bit more seamless and intuitive now than maybe in the beginning. But yeah, about for example, like what food to eat or what not to eat. Like I hear so many people speaking on what their experiences are, and how sometimes it can sound like it's very absolute, like this is the scientific research that I have found, and this is what, and it's great that people are taking the time to dive into that. But I think just I'm a really big proponent of like utilizing reason, science, logic, and like what feels good to you, and not being afraid to like experiment and try things. So that can apply in literally all the areas that is coming up. And so And one of the reasons that I am even creating this channel to begin with was to, have these discussions and share some of my own personal experiences, as well as like other people that I found along the way who have really helped me, and just like starting to co-create that dialogue together, so please feel free to share in the comments if there's like something that maybe you've been wanting to talk about or hear, or maybe something I've already mentioned, whether I've already said it or I say it later in this transmission if you stick around and listen. Because like I said, I know how like hindering it can be to like one of my biggest things is like I haven't wanted to like be conflicting, or I'll have like this one profound experience and then I'll listen to someone who I really look up to and then have them say like the exact opposite, like, oh well, that is not truth. And it's like, oh, like it used to like crush me, because I'd be like, oh my god, like I'm making this all up, or I'm crazy, or all those like delusional things. And I think it's important to like acknowledge that and to sit with it, and like I said, to utilize the different ways that we can process and reflect. And yeah, so I know this is not very like concrete, and it might even sound a little bit confusing but this is just what has been on my mind and that I wanted to bring through before the rest comes out. And especially when we get into those more like cosmic conversations and some of the like the more non-linear bridging of like spirituality and science, and the more I've been diving into like Keylontic science, and then you come back to some of like the Eastern tradition teachings of spirituality. There's just so many ways and avenues that we can dive into. So I just think it's really important to like have that conversation of like, I've heard some people say like, what is absolute truth? And what I've been finding, at least for myself, is like, how do I say this? It feels like there's always some sort of like grain of truth in things, especially if it's something that you are like drawn to. And then that's where like our mind comes in to utilize those faculties to like, okay, what sits with me here? Like it's like basically what I'm feeling is like it's encouraged and okay to question things, and that doesn't mean that that's not that other person's truth, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Like if it's that, I know there's like a lot of people that say like there's like only one truth doesn't have sides. Like I guess it's more what I feel like I'm really butchering this here, but it just kind of comes down to at least at this day and age of what we're experiencing, like we have so much information available to us like at our fingertips on the internet, and telecommunications, like everything's just so fast. And so when we're getting all this information constantly, I think sometimes it can, like, I get so many messages for people when I'm in sessions and stuff to like really learn how to, it's okay to slow down and sit with things and process, and not just need to rush into constantly like receiving from external. So yeah, I think it's more just like navigating through that and finding what works for you. And honestly, I know this might be a little bit discouraging, but like what works for you might not always be the same thing. So that's why it's like learning how to step out of that box. Maybe if you're here, you're probably more drawn to the nonlinear experiences of life, and even if you are someone who is very in that linear, like, that doesn't mean this isn't for you. I think it's just a way of maybe opening up your maybe you need to not need to, no one has to do anything. Maybe you're being called to challenge yourself and step into a bigger picture perspective. Like maybe you've been seeing eagles or some of like the bigger birds hawks, eagles, etc. I'm hearing condor. I think a condor is a bird. I'm not positive in this moment. So yeah, and this one theme that's been coming through the last few weeks for me, the Pleiadian energy has really been ramping up. And I go through phases with some of these different beings that will come through, or star systems or stars. There's so many ways we can also look at that. And this conversation actually feels like I want to share some of my experiences, but first it feels like there's I'm pausing because I really want to choose how I express this carefully. I've gone through many phases, let me say that, and I'm only speaking from personal experience here, with what it is to tap back into like cosmic consciousness and utilizing the stars, whether it's like you feel you have lived on other planets and star systems, if you have a parallel life, if you have many lives, if you have guides, if you have memories. And then, there's so many agendas, if you will, that can come through these different remembrances. And I know I went through like an escapism aspect where I didn't really want to focus on like what my reality around me. I was very like, but I don't regret it. Like that was a part of my evolution, if you will, or remembrance that I feel like I needed to go through. I don't quite feel the same way anymore because I feel like I've integrated those aspects. And for me, it really feels like, whether it's Andromeda, Pleiadian, one you've never heard of before, and maybe not even the star systems, but different realms that, I've tapped into these other realms that I don't have names for exactly, or at least not yet, and different life form experiences. So to me, it's just like this, when we go into the more, I guess you can say, I use the word scientific very loosely because I don't mean it from like an academia science perspective. I mean like a spirit science. When we go into that, I was shown, and I think I talked about this in another video, one of my first I want to say a word that does not exist. Remembral? That's not a word. Remembrances of an out-of-body astral experience where I like met the scientists on the astral plane, and they showed me this like holographic crystalline DNA. This is before I knew like anything about this. So for me, when I connect with all these different realms, beings, whatever you want to call it, from star systems, including other aspects of Earth and time periods of Earth, like we talk about the epochs, or in, I know, like Vedic teachings, they go into like the yugas. I believe it's Vedic. Sometimes when I'm in these transmissions, I like cannot remember certain things clearly. So not clearly. That's not what I meant. I more meant like if anyone else who does any sort of, if you want to call it channeling or transmissions, I think you'll know what I mean. Anyway, so yeah, just tapping into those different periods on Earth's evolution can actually shift how we see, including our own evolution in this lifetime. It can really shift our perspective on these some more cosmic, multidimensional layers of reality, dream time included. So again, if you're still here, I hope I'm not losing you. I'm more just trying to show why these topics can be so like delicate and sensitive, and why it can really take, like, I want to use the word time to really let these experiences unfold and integrate within us. Because sometimes in that first experience, we get what we need in the moment, and then eventually we're shown layers that kind of like bring the picture together. And it can be you're shown maybe the larger picture at first. Like I know I've had like visions, let's say, like whatever you want to call them, like actual visions. And it's like I could see what was the big picture, but it's like I didn't have all of the details or the small understandings of like what that meant. I just knew that I was shown this. It's like kind of like when you talk about like the North Star or the guiding star, you know where you're headed, but you don't know how you're going to get there or why or what's really going on. So it's like it takes time for those that trust, and that, like my team would always say to me, like blind faith, blind trust. It's like just taking one step at a time. But I would be shown, over the years, these different bigger picture aspects. And so I'd be like, okay, I know. And then I would maybe be shown like 10 to 12 signs and synchronicities that like would get me to that phase. And then it's like, okay, here's another big picture part. Here are 25 more signs. And I'm thinking of, I've probably talked about this before, but the show, The Good Place, if you've ever seen that, there's this one part where Michael, who's like a fire squid demon in a human suit, is giving clues to the 4 humans of how to get to like an escape route. If you saw the episode, you'll know what I'm talking about. And they figure it out, and they're like, oh, we got like all, 7 clues you gave us. And he's like, actually, I gave you about like 9,745, I'm just making this number up, clues, but your human primitive brains cannot handle all of that at once. So, but great job for getting like the 25 clues that you think we left you, or something like that. Anyway, so it's kind of like that, and which is kind of for me comforting, because it's like, once you're tuned in and you're aware, then it helps with that that knowing that like you are being led, even if you're not getting every single sign. Like you don't need every single one. It's just, or it's like these clues or these I forget who used to say this a lot, but like cosmic breadcrumbs. So I'm sorry if I'm not sourcing the person. I feel like I've heard that a lot. But yeah, like cosmic breadcrumbs, or I honestly want to take another pause to see where I'm navigating from here, because I'm being shown like 5 different topics. So let me see. Hold on. Okay, so back to the Palladian connection and entering those aspects of maybe like, and when I say like escapism, like that Piscean, like I needed time for me personally, like I guess on a soul level I chose, I know I've been shown this, to explore the ethers and remember what astral projection was, and scrying and all these different things that help me reconnect to those parts of myself. And then there was a time where, just like I was talking about realigning with your own cycles, it was time to be more like, now I'm in a more, actually now it's a bit like checking in the moment and seeing where I'm at, but more so I'm being guided to be part of the physical world again, and really focusing on my physical body even more. And I'm not suggesting that anyone out there should like go into that escapism. That's not what I'm saying, but I'm trying to help take away some of the shame out of that, because I think we're all here to experience a unique blueprint, even though we are all one. The law of one, the Ra collective, has been coming through my dreams for a long time, and they came through again recently talking about the law of one. So that's absolutely something that does sit with me as truth. But I also think we are here as unique expressions of that one. So again, there's that like dichotomy of navigating as like a collective, but also expressing your own unique part in that. And so, yeah, anything I say is always like with that in mind. And yeah, anyway, like I was saying, I know that there's someone who I listen to often, not as much now, but once in a while, and she has really helped me in so many ways. But there's certain things she says that really sometimes takes away my own knowing, and she was actually a part of this dream that I'm going to speak about. So yeah, I think it's just really important to continue like having these conversations. And I am not here to say that like I have the truth or the answers, or I know I know, it's more like my experiences have gotten so, I wouldn't say gotten, they have been just like life-changing for me. And I just really wanted to share them because I was like, I can't be the only one having these experiences. And I just do my best to share what it is that I feel. And, I'm constantly like learning and studying and so, like I said, that's held me back in the past of not sharing, because I always, it was kind of like working with that perfectionistic thing of like, I don't know enough, I'm not ready to share, what I say isn't important, or it doesn't matter, it's just going to change anyway. So I'm sharing all this because in case someone's here listening and experiencing that, this is not like you need to start and share today, unless you really feel that call. But this is like, you'll get there. And if it is today just to start small, then please do. And it can be really small, even if it's just for yourself. Like maybe you're already doing that and you're ready to take it to the next level, like wherever you are. I don't know. I just feel like there might be someone, if anyone ever hears this, that is maybe going through something similar. Okay. So the first like dreamscape that wants to come through, a few of the like frequencies that I've been feeling from this Pleiadian connection. Like I said, one of them is the dream, but I was also guided to look up the etymology of Pleiades or Pleiadian, because there's so much about the seven sisters and, the seven sister clusters and the mythos around that. And there's like I said, there's so much information. So I'm not going to like go through all of that, because you can, if you haven't already, which I'm sure some of you have, whatever you feel called to look up in terms of that might be helpful. But yeah, it says that the name of the Pleiades comes from ancient Greek. And then there's a Greek word that I do not know how to pronounce, or like, the alphabet. And it says it probably derives from plane, Plein, and it's to sail, Sail, sail. Because of the cluster's importance in delimiting the sailing season in the Mediterranean Sea. So when I looked that up, the to sail, 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 really caught me, because a wonderful mentor I had a couple years ago brought through a word for me, Wayfinder. Now that I learned later, there's people that are, they say way showers is like a common thing in the like light worker spiritual community or whatever. Oh, I'm hearing horns. Oh yeah, that's right. So I wasn't going to make this video today because of a few different reasons, but I really kept feeling a pull to just push record, even though I kind of felt underprepared. And right before I did that, I mentioned that I went into a little bit of a meditation, and when I came out of the meditation, it just turned 11:12. So it was like 11:11 into 11:12. And I'm looking at the clock now, it's 11:55. So some of these numbers might be relevant. But I was kind of like, all right, I came out of meditation and I was like, am I going to do this? And all of a sudden I'm inside right now, and all of these birds, like it was so loud. Like there were so many bird noises I could hear. It was just like, it felt like they were inside with me, and it lasted like a good while. And then that's when I started looking up some of these things that I had been like kind of, I'll just like write things down or record my dreams, and then let the energy build up and then record when I feel called to. And so, yeah, birds could be relevant for someone, like the avian lineages as well. Blue avian. There's another one that I'm feeling, but for some reason it's not coming through. So we'll see if it comes out. And now I'm seeing like avian feline hybrid. So there's many. I think it's the Sarahs, if I'm saying that right. I can look it up in a minute. But there's in the Ashayana Dean, if anyone here is reading that or has read it, I believe there's the Sarahs. That's what I'm feeling. which I believe is an avian lineage, if I'm not mistaken. I could be wrong though. Okay, so back to the Wayfinder. So her name is Jana. She's wonderful. And yeah, that word really stuck out to me when she brought it through. And now I'm being taken to like the Lemurian epoch. So Lemuria might be coming up for you a lot right now. And even with that, just like all of this, there's so much information. So again, I'll just bring through my own perspective right now, which is an amalgamation of studying inner memories, dreams, astral experiences, and yeah, books, etc. So let's see. So the Wayfinder. I remember when I watched Moana, which to me, I don't know if people talk about this openly. I think they do, but I feel like that's a very like Lemurian energy filled movie. And they're wayfinders, it's like a sailing term, which I didn't know that at first. And so when I looked up what it, of course there's going to be different definitions, but the one that stood out to me, it says, what is a wayfinder? Wayfinding is the ancient Polynesian practice, which, Polynesia is very connected to Lemuria and Moana. Practice of, I believe, of navigating the open oceans using deep knowledge and intense observation of the celestial bodies in the sky and the swells of the water. You are ready to be a wayfinder when you sense a deep yearning to follow your inner compass. So everything we've been talking about, going within and, of course, tuning back into the cosmos and having your own like direct link and connection. And again, that doesn't mean you will never receive external guidance or external like confirmations. It's more just like when you have that, I'm seeing this like blue light, like a blue light in the sky. It's like you have that like direct link connection to, the celestial bodies, to the higher aspects of yourself, into like the law of one, into the collective, and then you bring that through yourself. So I feel like that might be one of the biggest messages that I've been feeling from the Pleiadian clusters. I don't know why I said it that way, but that's the way it came out. And I know there's also a lot of like, being human is just like less than, and these celestial beings are so much more, important, or, we live in a simulation. Like there's all these different things that we go through, and it's like on versions of reality that could be like, again, seeds of truth. But the way it feels to me, and just from my connection and understanding, is like we have these like organic ascension timelines where reawakening to our original 12 crystalline strand DNA of the original angelic human. And so when you go through that passageway, if you will, and you reawaken that link and you clear karmic miasma, which is just like a way of saying these like programs that we run on that take us away from our own inner compass, essentially. It's very much simplifying it, but yeah, so I feel like this message that I was connecting through in the Pleiadian, another thing. So I kept being shown the Pleiadian lineups, which are in like mid-May, and then there's one in November. So any of that could be significant. And I did a video a few weeks back on the zero crystalline Taurus zero crystalline stargate, and I've been getting a lot of different messages coming through that since I've received that phrase. And actually 0 degrees Taurus, I believe, is a Pleiadian marking, so it could be a connection to that as well. And yeah, there's something about like honoring the human, and if you're not there, or that's not something you feel, like that's okay. This is, again, just what's coming through for me. Is like, there's so much, it's so easy to give your power away to these, beings that come to us, or A lot of people will say it's delusion, or, you know, there's just so many things out there. And that's not to say that none of these things aren't happening. But I just wanted to share that I've done like a lot of, you know, integration in terms of like sitting with these experiences before I share them and really doing internal and external research. So when I do share these things, I at least have my own like footing and my own connection to it, so that I can share in a way that, you know, I feel most confident. That might not be everyone's path or everyone's way, but that's just the way I like to do it. So the sailing, Moana, Polynesian, Lemurian, Pleiadian, you know, very feminine way of perceiving. And I remember when I first started retapping into the cloistered Dora plates, it was coming through my dream time, and it was actually in my reality way before that, and it just took me a while to piece everything together. And if you're not familiar with what that is, that's okay. I'm sure it will come up for you if it's meant for you to go down that route, or if you're already familiar, then you'll know what I'm talking about. And, you know, I've been doing like that research, you know, because there's not like a ton of information on it, at least credible information. And so I kept asking, like, why am I being shown this? What is my part? And I think as I continue to, you know, tune in and do my research internally and externally, there's also this like feminine aspect of the cloistered Dora plates I did not plan on talking about today. But, you know, we can like, you know, look in a book and get what's been transmitted. And I think that's a really important aspect. Of course, I'm not saying not to do that. What I'm saying is I feel, for me, I was like making all these lists and I was going to share the information, which I might do one day. But for right now, I've been really guided to like bring through back of the like more feminine connection of like storytelling and personal experiences and, you know, oracular style channeling is what I call it. Now, the word channeling itself has been, I honestly, like when people are like, what do you do? I don't even, that's why I've been calling them transmissions, because some of it is channeling and some of it is research. It's like, for me, it's been like well, this brings me to the other, I know I didn't even talk about the dream yet. So in the Ascension Glossary, which is something that I really like to utilize, so you'll hear me talk about that a lot, and I've mentioned it in other videos. So thank you to the creator of the Ascension Glossary, and you can look that up if that's something you feel called to do. I kept being shown something in my experiences, and I stumbled on one of the definitions, the Aurora Re-encryption, and the elementals have been coming up a lot. And in the Aurora Re-encryption, and this is, again, I'm bringing this through because of, you know, people who like bring through information like this and don't want to be called a channel. They're very specific about that. They're like, I am not a channel. And I can think of like 5 people off the top of my head. And I've really been, honestly, I'm struggling with that a little bit. Like, I don't know what to call myself. And that's why I say oraculous style channeling, because, you know, an oracle, oraculous is a form of the word oracle. And oracles over time have had different roles in our society. And, you know, I'm thinking of like the ancient Greek oracles who would like, you know, straddle their legs over like the gaseous, what can I think of, vapors that came out of the earth, like the chasms, and channel that way. Or, you know, in other traditions, I know like the laurel tree, I think it's the laurel tree, they would sit with laurel and like go into the garden. I believe this is through like some of the Essene connections, and ingest the laurel and go into like a trance-like state and bring their information. So there's been, you know, that's just a few examples of some of the, and from my knowledge, a lot of them have been females. I'm not saying there have not been male oracles. I'm just saying these instances like feel very feminine to me. And then, you know, there's like the prophecy of like Nostradamus, and he would utilize, I believe it was scrying actually, to bring through his thing. So I'm saying all this to say, the phrase Aurora Re-encryption for me was like remembering all these ways of connecting into these higher realms or higher dimensions, or, you know, re-encrypting these crystalline DNA aspects of ourselves. And again, which comes with a lot of purging of darkness that can happen because you're making space for these things. So that's why, to me, it's been so important to navigate it in a way that I think I mentioned this in my last video, but it's coming up again, like spiritual psychosis of, taking on too much and frying out our connection to reality so much that we can't navigate all of the realms at once, and then we just kind of are so out of our body that the connection isn't grounded, And of course, there's different levels of that. Anyway, so this Aurora re-encryption of Blueprint, there was one sentence that really stuck out to me. The first sentence: the elemental re-encryption process of this Avatar of Ascension, AOA, project as a part of the Aurora Guardian families is an adjustment that actually changes the coordinates of your, quote, birth blueprint, which is something I talk about all the time, the original crystalline blueprint, and its genetic imprint on the flesh. An encryption is a set of vibrations that hold energetic intention. Every thought that a person has is an encryption that takes us closer to or further from alignment. She uses God's source, so you can substitute that with whatever wording feels good to you. The Aurora re-encryptions is to return the divine blueprint that is encrypted in our silicate matrix as the crystal star or Christ coding. It goes on to say a lot more, and another phrase that really stood out to me was, she talks about the law of one, Ascension timeline, the 12 tree grid, which in itself, that could go on forever. And there was something else that she mentioned. These phantom bodies are what connect humans to the timeline of the 911 Alpha Omega agenda, or the negative alien agenda. Now, that is something for a whole other audio that I'd like to do, because even that in itself, I hear a lot of people talk about that, and I've had plenty of experiences myself with some of the more negative oriented things. But even with that, like, I've learned to, everyone has a place in this, even if we don't maybe like it. And that's kind of how I feel, or what I'm coming to. But I'll save that for another time. I just wanted to kind of introduce it. But the 12 tree grid, and I'm hearing in my head the Cathara grid. I know that's another name for it. And then in Kabbalah, the tree of life, or the Sephiroths along the Kabbalistic tree, when they, talk about, like, it's essentially like the map. So any of these things could be relevant, or maybe someone here is being called to dive more deep into some of these teachings. And then also the phrase silicate matrix also really stood out. So yeah, I, like I said, and intergalactic plasma light frequency she talks about as well in the Aurora re-encryption of Blueprint. So like I said, you can just, if you want to go deeper with this, you can Google Aurora re-encryptions Ascension Glossary, and it will all pop up. And then in blue, if you're not familiar with this already, there are like different links where you can click on for deeper definitions and explanations. So yeah, it can get a little bit overwhelming if you're not familiar with this. So really just take your time, because when I first found this, I was like, because I had all these different phrases coming through my dream time and my own channel and my own memory. So when I finally found this, it was like, whoa, it was just very confirming for me. And I feel like that's been a lot of my, if you will, wayfinding of remembering these things, where I will pick up on things first, and then I'll be shown external confirmations. So that's been very validating for me in the way I pick up on things. So in case that's helpful to anyone. Now, so the dream that really inspired this, we are 39 minutes in and it's finally coming through, but I will trust the layout of how this is being presented. So I want to say this was within the last 6 months, but it might have been a little bit longer than that. But I still remember it so well. And I went into this like space in my dream time where I was actually talking to someone who's a YouTuber who I really like. Like I said, I really value her work, and but there's also, like I said, been certain things along the way that have made me question my own stuff. It's a very interesting dynamic. Anyway, so in the dream, she was telling me something like, you know, basically like that is not, it was about like, you know, beings that aren't necessarily from Earth. And, you know, some people say this is like a very sensitive subject. So, anyway, if we look at it from that DNA perspective, that we're just activating different aspects of our DNA, like if we truly are in that law of one, did I say that correctly? Mentality, then we are all connected. And, you know, it's not about like higher realms doesn't mean that you're necessarily better. Each form of life is just a different expression of, what do they say? Like a source of source, right? So it's not about being better or worse. We're here to like, you know, we take this veil of amnesia and come back to remember like who we are. And so it's just another form of life expression. Anyway, so in this dream, this person we were sitting on a bench. Actually, this might be relevant for someone, like one of those benches that like swing inside, like a wooden swinging bench. And she was like, yeah, like it's not what you think, and blah, 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 blah. Like, I don't know, just words of just trying to talk me out of what I felt. And then, I saw like out of the side of my eye, there was like this like spark of light kind of thing. And I was like drawn to it, and I went to go find it. And it took me into this is like multiple dreams that I've had where I like am in one space, and then all of a sudden I like go through this like, I don't know, kind of like a wormhole or something, and then I'm in like a liminal space. So I was kind of then in this like liminal space, although this time I don't remember the wormhole. It was like it was just implied. Like I saw the spark, and I was like, okay, here we go. And I saw this like being, and it was ultraviolet and aqua, and it almost looked like, I don't know, I've been thinking of Rosie from the Jetsons, the robot. It wasn't like it was a robot. It just like, it was kind of like mechanical like that. But it was like also at the same time, what's the word I'm looking for? It wasn't like necessarily like human in like this way, like we are. It wasn't so physical, let's say that. But it was like very masculine. Actually, it was very masculine presence, and you know, to the human world, it was like a masculine presentation, and it had this like light source. Okay, you know, like if you ever have seen those like deep sea creatures where they're their own light source, like they're in the dark so long that they literally like have light that has become part of their evolution. It was kind of like that. So it was like its own light source, and it had these like almost like bulbs, but not, you know, not like glass bulbs, but like the deep sea creatures, kind of like that. But it was like all through its being, its body, and it like was lighting up and like transmitting something to me. Like it showed me that it showed almost like, I don't know if it like physically touched me or it just like pointed in my direction, and I like received, I just felt that like spark in my heart. Like I received this transmission. And I will say that my life has been changing a lot since that experience. And so, yeah, even those colors, the violet and the ultraviolet and the aqua, if we go into like the tri-founder flame, the mother arc is represented by the more aqua, like green and blue combination. And then the father arc will be like the violet, purpley color. And then, of course, you have like that, when they come together, the Christos or the Sophiana Christos, you know, like the triad, or, you know, when people say like the Holy Spirit, the three, that number 3 is really significant. So it's like this, the light that was created from these two, you know, the father arc and the mother arc, into this, like I've been saying for a while, and not just me, like other people too, like this new consciousness that's coming about. Like those of us who are like integrating our masculine and feminine energy and like becoming back into that more like wholeness, right? What happens when we do that? There's like this new consciousness that's born. So that's kind of what it was showing me, is like this again, the Aurora re-encryption of our highest blueprint, and what that is going to look like as we continue to co-create together and come together and have these discussions and, you know, create from our own authenticity instead of like what we think we should be doing, kind of thing. So that is, now that I've had time to sit with this, like what is being, I didn't know I was going to say this before I started, but this is what is kind of being shown through. And then of course, back to the sail, SAIL, the wayfinding, you know, utilizing your inner compass and utilizing the celestial bodies to navigate the water, the open water, which of course we know water can represent our emotional body too. So there's this like integration of the emotional body, and, you know, instead of just being reactive, like humans are very known for their emotions. And I remember when I first started diving into like research of like on Gaia TV and just like external beings, not of Earth, they always would joke like, oh, all the beings like watch Earth with like popcorn, because humans are just so emotional. Like their emotional bodies have really been highlighted, and like that's not every plane of existence, you know. So there's something about that, like the integration of our emotional body and navigating that. And it's just like anything that's new, it's going to take time to understand how to work with these emotions. And, you know, those of us who are really taking this time to learn, again, not to always just be reactive, like with that karmic miasma, but to like utilize them as our inner compass. And, you know, they're there to like teach us and show us and express. So that's kind of another aspect that's coming through. But back to the Pleiadian lineup, that feels significant. So we would have just had one in May. I'm recording this in June of 2024. And I kept being shown like the summer solstice. So like there's this like, I guess, if you want to call it a Pleiadian gateway, when, you know, the Pleiadian energy is highlighted. And when I say Pleiadian, again, it could be just as like the celestial aspect, or I've also heard people refer to these stars as like time signatures. So from May, you know, and now I'm being taken to the spring equinox. So like that start of the spring equinox through the Pleiadian lineup in May. And then it's like these, seeing like Stargate openings or portal openings, however you would like to refer to them, where there will be these like electromagnetic activations through, you know, the aquiline sun, which is connected to Andromeda Galaxy, that kind of like spreads through our harmonic universes into a more like integrative experience. So it's like these, like, I'm hearing the word pulsar. So yeah, there's like these pulses of that. It's like we're remembering our inner light, just like the fish in the deep sea, or that experience I had with this being. Or we're becoming our own light source even more, those of us who are tuned into this. Some people are not as conscious of it, and, you know, it's still happening on some level. So, and the earth itself is also, you know, going through her own version of this. So yeah, there's something about that, like that re-encryption. And I've heard like people like Dan Winter, who talks about, the one like really important, I think, piece of my puzzle that I got from him, which I'm very grateful for. He talks about like being parasitic, and how humans can be more parasitic. And what that really just means, it sounds like really scary, but really what it means is like you're not generating your own source. So, you know, when you're parasitic, you need to get your source from something else. And part of that, stepping back into, he calls it like having a centripetal implosion, your auric field being centripetally imploded. So it like kind of like a clockwise version of each cell on your body having its own field that is coherent. So we talk about like heart-brain coherence. Essentially, what we're doing is we're becoming our own light source again, where we go within to regenerate or to rejuvenate, to cleanse ourselves, to be our own energy source, you know? And of course, when I say our own, like back to that Wayfinder, our own inner compass, that leads us to this self-generating, which then of course takes us back into the law of one, the whole, the connection to all that is, or whatever phrase you want to use. Anyway, I did not expect this to go here today, so this is just what's coming through, so I'm just going with it. So if you're still here, thank you for listening. And again, please feel free to like share if any of this is like sparking something for you, you know, maybe some of your own experiences or things that you've kind of like maybe had intuitive nudges or feelings on. And I just got very thirsty. So yeah, maybe someone here needs to drink some extra water. But yeah, so there's something about that, like the weaving, like when I first opened, I'm just going to take a sip of water. I've also been really feeling called to drink a lot of juice lately. Like beet juice, green, like each week it feels like it's another color that I'm attracted to. It started with like beet juice, then I was really drawn to like passion fruit, then I went and kind of skipped. Oh, and I was like really drawn to bananas. There's something here about, yeah, like fruit, and like now this week I'm drinking beet and green juice. I don't know, there's something about that, so maybe that's important for someone, or like a confirmation. Yeah, so anyway, back to the Aurora re-encryption of, you know, the wayfinding of our own highest blueprint, and also, again, being uniquely expressed through your individuality while simultaneously, for the greater good of all, operating through the law of one. So that seems to be like the biggest overall theme, I think, and then how that breaks down in different ways. Let's see if there's anything else that I was feeling that wanted to come through. Okay, I just paused. You probably did not feel it. But I felt like there was one more thing that wanted to come through. So I looked through my camera roll, because sometimes I'll just take photos of things that will help me remember. And that was right away. You may be receiving communication, like the word electromagnetic kept coming up. And also through like your devices. So maybe through photos, through video, you know, through your computer, or you might click on like a video of someone else's, and like it was coming through their videos. So you might be drawn to certain people for that reason. There's something about that coming up. And I was on a WhatsApp video call the other night with my mom and my sister, and my sister was giving my nephew a bath. He just turned 2, and my niece, who's only a couple months old, was like in the background as well. And the whole time there were like these beings coming through the video, and no one else noticed but me. So I took like all these snapshots. My mom's into the stuff, so I sent her a picture, and she was like, whoa, what is all that? And it was coming through like very pixelated, and it felt like there were like, I could see like animals, and then there were like colors coming through as well. Because my sister's wall is like all white, and I could see like these colors, and I see that all the time, like in the air, just, you know, but it was coming through the video. And I have a few pictures that I had taken where they come through my photos, and I could see, and I know there's plenty of other people who have had these experiences as well. So anyway, yeah, there's something about that, maybe, or even like the audio, like if you're listening to like a recording that you did, or I got like tingles on my right middle finger, which is for me the air element, so that could be relevant for someone. Yeah, like in the clouds too, like if you take a photo of like the sky, you know, they call it like father sky, you might see like cloud beings coming through, or like something comes through the photo. There's just something about that. Like I'm seeing someone just like taking pictures of the sky and then like looking at the pictures later and being like, whoa, like what is that? Yeah, so there's something about that. And I feel like I could do a whole audio alone on that topic, but I just kind of wanted to bring through a little bit of that because I felt it so strongly. And yeah, that's another thing, like because I was the only one who noticed, there might be something about that too, like you kind of feel a little bit alone or like you're going crazy, things like that. So, well, if you're going crazy, then I guess I am too. Let's put it that way. Okay, I'm just looking through my camera roll to see if there's anything else. Oh, the word circuit. I wrote that down. Oh, and Japan keeps coming through. So actually, I don't know if you can hear, I have music on in the background. It's a, let's see. For some reason, I have too many like windows open. Oh, here it is. Elder Tree, Japanese Zen music by the ocean. Yeah, and I was talking about getting sunburnt, and I went to the ocean yesterday, actually, and I was having like such a great time that I got way too sunburnt because I was just, it was like the first time I got to spend like a significant amount of time by the ocean in a really long time, and I kept having dreams about the ocean, so when I finally got there, I was just like, ah. Anyway, so yeah, maybe some of you are feeling that pull or that call to spend time with water in some way, especially salt water, but doesn't have to be. Anyway, Japan. So in my dream the other night, I booked a one-way ticket to Japan, and then since then, I've literally been seeing like this Japan thing popped up on my feed, and I never listened to Japanese Zen music, but it's a really beautiful background. It's a white tree, so that might be significant for someone too. I heard the word albino, so maybe that could be relevant. And then literally, like, I swear everything I turn on is like now referencing Japan in some way. So there might be something about Japan, like, I don't know, maybe someone here is being called to go to Japan, or maybe you are visiting Japan. It could be like an awakening of an aspect of your soul that feels connected to Japan. Now I'm hearing wabi-sabi. Maybe someone here practices wabi-sabi, like the gold-plated, it's like the philosophy of like the imperfections in life. And I was talking about being a perfectionist actually in the beginning of this video. So yeah, there's something about, like, if you're not familiar in wabi-sabi, they take something and if it like cracks, they'll mend it with gold, like a vase or pottery. And so there's something about that alchemical process within yourself. Like if you feel like there's, something that's breaking or not perfect, or you're feeling that like overly perfectionist archetype coming through for you, maybe looking up wabi-sabi, maybe it will help you like, alchemize your own cracks and fill it with gold and transmute it into something. Or might literally want to be called to do something similar. I'm also seeing ikebana, which is Japanese flower arranging. So that could be for someone. I've actually always wanted to do that, and I haven't yet, so maybe I'll do that someday. But yeah, there is something like really coming through about Japan. I have been wanting to visit Japan for a long time, so I hope that was a premonition in that dream. But yeah, like a few of my friends just brought up Japan. Like there's just like, this is all this week. There's just like a lot of things about Japan. I haven't checked into like the weather in Japan, so maybe there's like something going on. For some reason, being drawn to the weather in Japan, so I'll have to look into that. And let me see if there's anything else about Japan. Maybe you've been like craving Japanese food. I know I have. And it's funny, I used to love eating fish, and lately I don't feel as drawn to eat it as much anymore. I haven't had it in a while that I can think of. Oh, that's not true. I think I had salmon skin. But like really rarely do I feel drawn to eat fish. And I'm not here to tell you how to eat or what to do. I'm just saying, like, if you're really drawn to Japanese food, there are different ways to be able to eat it, is what I'm being shown. I don't know. Maybe someone was wondering about that. yeah, I feel, oh, and seaweed, that's been coming up so much too. I don't know why that's, there's something about the, of course, you know, do your own due diligence here. But there's something about, I was having actually like my eye was kind of dry, and I feel like I wasn't getting enough of, this was like a few weeks ago. I wasn't getting enough of, I think it was like omega-3s or like in that category of, whatever you want to call it. And I was craving seaweed like so intensely, and I looked it up, and seaweed, I might have already talked about this in another video, but it's coming through again. Seaweed has a high amount of I believe, I think it is like, yeah, like omega fatty acids. So, and I actually was talking about earlier the omega and alpha connection. So anyway, maybe someone here is being called to eat like seaweed, more seaweed. I know that once I was craving it, my eye, and I was eating more of it, my eye is not dry anymore, so that's good. And again, I'm not here to say that that will absolutely happen for you. I'm just sharing my experience. But again, please do your own due diligence on that. Yeah. I paused, and I happened to pause at 0101 on the clock, or sorry, 10101. And then it's 12:34, 1, 2, 3, 4. So yeah, numerology might be important for someone. 1, 2, 3, 4 to me is like, you know, continuing to take aligned action and like one step at a time. I feel like whenever I'm trying to like rush, I'll hear the song clairaudiently, One Step at a Time from Jordan Sparks. There's no need to rush, so that could be relevant for someone. And then yeah, the repeating numbers and zeros and ones, you know, now I'm getting like binary code. So there's something about that. Yeah, like binary code programming, and then like updating your software system within your body, you know, like how we talk about like Ascension, like we're like quite literally re-encrypting our code, you know, breaking out of the box. And yeah, so just really a reminder to like be patient with yourself. And if you've gotten this far, I do think that you are most likely going through like a spiritual initiation, another activation type of thing. And I heard someone say like, another one? I know, I get it. But yeah, they say like this lifetime, we're coming back into the remembrance of the golden age. So not just the remembrance, but like the next golden age, we're making our way into that, right? Like one step at a time, 1, 2, 3, 4. And now those steps can be nonlinear. So sometimes it can feel like so fast, and sometimes it can feel like really slow. And I think I made a video called the Aurora time spiral, and I talk a lot about like time. So if you feel connected to that, you can go look at that. Or maybe you just came from there or something. All right, well, I think that's all I have for today. So thank you for listening. And yeah, like I said, feel free to share anything that came up for you. If you have any questions, I'll do my best to answer. But yeah, thank you. And that is all.